Hello. I've had a letter in from an Aaron Mitchell in the Isle of Man. Dear Mr. Novice, loving the channel. I also like hats, glasses and beards. I recently watched one of your reviews where you used the terms saline and salinity quite a bit. Indeed, I would go one further and say sodium chloride. Well, Mr. Mitchell, thank you for that letter and thank you for that salt mention. Just mark that off. Look there. And well, get on with it. Thank you for joining me for review number 206. And thank you to Fathers of the Word for those dad jokes. Keep them coming in. Review number 206 with me, the Whiskey Novice. And I'm looking at one this time, a whiskey which I generally won't do this with. You wouldn't have seen me in the past maybe doing a whiskey like this. Not so much anyway. Why that? What sort of whiskey is it? Well, it's the dark Silkie, an Irish whiskey. I don't review an awful lot of Irish whiskey as it is. There's a reason for that. And this is a prime example of one of those reasons. What is that? This is sourced whiskey. Dark Silkie, Sleeve League. So, Sleeve League, now a working distillery in Donegal, in Ardran, Donegal, here in Ireland. However, this is sourced. This is sourced because they're a new distillery. They do have their own whiskey out now, but it was released as a very, very, very low numbers. I think there was 100 bottles of it or something released, and it was a very fancy bottle. Don't get fair play to them. James Doherty there in Sleeve League, I wish the best for them. But the Silkie and the dark Silkie, legendary Silkie, whatever you want to call it, been around for a couple of years now, a few years. And this one, the dark Silkie, they're slightly heavier peated one, non-chill filtered. I just read that in the bottle. It's sourced whiskey. Let's get into that quickly. It's a blend sourced from, in this case, Great Northern Distillery, I believe. Great Northern Distillery in Dundalk. So these new Irish distilleries, they produce gins, they source their whiskey, maybe not all of them, but just in this case, they source their whiskey from somewhere else and then they bottle it as their own. It's perfectly legal. There's a reason why I don't do it very often. It's just not my thing. I don't to say I disagree with it. It's just not my thing. I would rather a distillery would wait until their whiskey was ready and then put it all out. But that's neither here nor there. But every now and again, one of these sourced whiskies comes around and I feel it really deserves to be talked about. And the dark Silkie is one of them. So as I said, a blend, sourced, yes, non-chill filtered, no natural colour, I believe, as well. I read somewhere. However, it's a blend. I always find it a little strange whenever they say non-chill filtered on a blend. It just seems a little strange to me. Smoky blend made with double distilled and triple distilled peated single malts with soft grain whiskey to savour the later watches of the night. Now, 46%. As I said, no non-chill filtered. I do believe I read no colour added, and it's a peaty little malt. It is their peaty little malt. So let's get into it and see what we think. Powdered sugar, maple syrup, bacon, or actually I'll go one for and say honey roast ham. So there is it's a portion of peated malt, so it's a blend of there's malts, peated malt, etc. in there. And so do most Silkie expressions. They have varying degrees of malt in their blends. So you go looking for that peated malt, and it's there. It definitely is there. How does it represent? Well, don't be expecting big, massive phenolic hits. This is no Ardbeg or Lafroig or Lagavulin or anything. It's not that sort of feel at all. To me, the peatiness in this represents as inner tubes, new rubber, that sort of thing. It's got that rubbery peat influence, which I've had in whiskies before. But what you can expect, as I said, don't expect big phenolic hit. Expect a well-balanced whiskey, and that's what it is. That's what I get here. If I describe this as being apple pie in front of a fire, that's what I get. The sweetness in it and the smokiness work very well together. And for a sourced blend, I give them credit. Because what have they done? Well, they've went to those who it's been sourced from and they've said, here is the flavour profile we want. You seen me double dip there. This is definitely a take another go. Sour and sweet. I'm going to say arrival. It's another one of those that the sweetness tends to almost miss where it should hit on the palate and go slightly further back, but it's good. It works. It's a tad dry. Once again, thoughts of those inner tubes of that rubber. Yeah, definitely that rubbery note. However, don't let me steer you wrong with that. No pun intended. This is a very well balanced. There's richer, darker fruit notes. Any sweetness doesn't overpower. And it's what I would consider quite a typical peated Irish whiskey. Peated Irish whiskey in most cases, especially where blending is concerned, you know, that grain whiskey's still in play in there, so the sweetness is in play in there. But I've said it before that I think that's one of the things that makes Irish whiskey so popular, is that sweeter edge. Balance that out here with the peated malt, and it does work well. The brighter, sweeter notes are there. I mentioned earlier on powdered sugar. The peatier notes are there, representing here as inner tube, tire, rubber. But there are brighter notes. I mentioned our apple earlier on. There's citrus, chocolatey notes. It does work very well. I'm convinced it works very well as a balanced blend, and a very well sourced, very well made, sourced, balanced blend. Finish is relatively long actually, but it's not the peat that hangs around. And I expect from peated malts, certainly those heavier peated Scotch single malts or blends even, I expect that the peat to hang around for a long time. You know that it's been here. You know there's been peat in that. So the finish is quite long, but it's weirdly more the sharper appley notes that hang around in the back of the palate. This goes down incredibly well. Sort of white peppery note there, and it's just, I think, a very, very good, well-balanced blend. This comes in around the 35 to 40 pounds mark. Yes, it's a blend. Yes, it's non-chill filtered. Sorry. Yes, it's a blend. Yes, it's sourced. That's what I meant to say. But it is non-chill filtered. It is 46%. As I said, I believe it to be natural colour. Not an awful lot changes with the addition of water. However, everything just becomes a little bit bolder, a little bit bigger, a little bit better. All of the notes are still in place, but they just turn themselves up a little. Same goes for the palate. Softer, but bigger, bolder. Doesn't change a lot. I'm still getting that rubbery note, but it's quite a pleasant rubbery note. That's the thing. This works weirdly. And it's some of that rubbery note that hangs around. I might not be selling this, but it is a good one. I would recommend this whiskey. Would I replace it? Excuse me. Yes, I would. Actually, certainly if it stays around that price. I imagine Sleeve League, to me, if they do what I think they're going to do, have played an ace here. They've played a very good card. What I mean by that, what I think they've done. Well, it doesn't say Sleeve League on the front of that bottle in big letters. It mentions it around the neck, but it doesn't. It says Silkie. So they can continue. I mean, they're not going to be, let's face it, these guys haven't hit the ground running. They haven't hit the ground with thousands of litres of stock that they can just put out at the drop of a hat. They're going to want to hold stuff back. They're going to want to mature it. They're going to want to have stuff that comes out with the name Sleeve League on the bottle. All the while that is happening, they can continue to source whiskey for the Silkie. The Silkie can be around forever as long as the source is around. So as long as I said, I believe it to be Great Northern Distillery can produce this for them, they can continue to do it. They never need to produce this whiskey in the Sleeve League Distillery. And I actually think that's a stroke of genius in this behalf. I think it's very clever. They're not the only ones to do it. Acklandville have done it with Dunvilles, etc. So there's other guys out there doing it. That to me is clever. Doesn't say their name on it. So there, yes, I recommend this as an entry. It is sort of still entry level blend, but they've kept the price down on it, which I like. And it is a decent peated, blended malt, blended Irish whiskey. This one's throwing me a bit. I'll leave it there and move on. Yes. Definitely a decent whiskey. If you see it, maybe see it in a bar, give it a go. If peated whiskey's your thing, as I said, don't be expecting that big peat monster, that big phenolic. It is light, but in the scheme of things, in Irish whiskey, in the scheme of things, it's a good one. So on that subject, then, what would I recommend? Let's see what I would recommend. Well, this is going to require a little whiskey wizardry again, because it's a bottle that I don't currently have. However, it is, and it's not just one bottle technically, but I'm just gonna give you one bottle for now, pizzazz. And it's one of the new Waterford peated single malts. I haven't purchased one of these yet. However, I have been lucky enough to have tried them a couple of times. And look, I haven't tasted a peated Irish whiskey like these yet. I know I've said it before that peated whiskey doesn't tend to maybe sit very well in Irish whiskey. But I love it, and I know a lot of you out there do, and it's one of those things that it's hard to find a good peated whiskey then in Ireland, in my opinion, a really good one. This is a good one, but something that, really hits me where I want it to hit me, a really big phenolic peat monster. And these, there's two of them currently from Waterford, are those big peat monsters. They really are. I've mentioned it in the past where Mark Rainier didn't leave everything in Bruichladdich. He brought all of that knowledge with him, and he's carried it forward into Waterford, and he's done very well. And this to me is a proper peated whiskey. So it's worth checking out. That if peated whiskey is your thing, if you want to try peated Irish whiskey, definitely look at one of the Waterfords. Let's get rid of that. And we'll leave that one there. Yeah, Silkie, Sleeve League doing good things with the Silkie name, and long may it last. Long may it last. I'm just going to leave that at that. Say thank you very, very much for joining me once again. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you very much to my patrons. Should anybody wish to join that group, the details are in the video description below. So they are. Yeah. Weird, this settles out. Some of those rubbery notes slip away a little, and the peat. I really am waffling through this. The rubbery notes slip away. The maltier notes come back in. And you start to get that even more balance. There you go. I'll see you next time. Until then, look after yourselves. Here's to your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.